Create an easy nonprofit program budget on your phone from scratch using Google Sheets. If you like this video, like and subscribe. So we're diving right in to create a summer youth program budget. I'm going to start from scratch and show you basic income and expense categories. We're going to be going into the expenses first, but here are some common income categories such as foundations, corporations, fundraising, government grants, program expenses. We're also going to be looking at some formulas. So if you picture a summer youth program, what types of personnel, staff would you need to hire? What other expenses would you have? Perhaps you're a grant writer or you're in accounting, fundraising, perhaps you're an aspiring nonprofit professional. So this is a refresher for you. Your funder may have templates, or your accounting department or development department may have a budget template, but this is just a walkthrough together to see the fundraising process. So as we're looking at this, we're trying to consider what personnel would be part of a program budget. You may have program coordinators, and they may be full or part-time, group leaders for a number of children, a program director, and then you might have a general supply category. There might be different categories of supplies like sports equipment. Pool supplies might be another category. If you have pool supplies, you probably have some lifeguards to watch the kids in the pool. As we work on this spreadsheet, we're going to be spacing different lines as we go along. So supplies would just be one category, and then there are other standard categories for budgets such as publications, shipping, travel. Maybe all of these expenses, again, might not be part of your program, but they might be on a financial budget that you need to share with the accounting department. Perhaps you are the accounting department. Some funders might require you to enter into certain categories that you aren't actually going to use, or this might be just for your program and those categories will not be necessary. So when looking at your income and expenses, we're going to create some formulas such as the number of units and the unit cost. So the unit cost is just how much something costs. For example, if you have 100 pencils and a box costs $5, then each pencil, each unit is 5 cents. Or another way to look at it, if you're buying 5 boxes of pencils and each is $5, the unit cost is $5 and you'll be spending a total of $25. We also have to figure out the various personnel expenses. FTE stands for full-time equivalent. So will your program coordinators be a full-time staff member, or do they work 20 hours a week throughout the year? Maybe they're only there 6 months of the year. Another way of looking at their effort is in percentages. So in this case, whether the program coordinator is full or part-time, what percentage of their time do they spend on this project? The project being the summer camp. Will they be working throughout the year to plan what is necessary for the camp? Will they be writing budgets like this? Are you the coordinator? And there might be multiple coordinators. So to set up our calculations, we want to know the effort on the project, or the FTE, a rate, which could be someone's total salary, or it could be an hourly rate. So here we're looking at 52 weeks of the year, 20 hours a week, $20 an hour. We're just starting out putting some rates in here. I'm going to format this as currency. I've zoomed in here so you can see the budget, but some of the buttons, such as the formatting button, is actually off screen, but this was right on my phone. So the group leader might only be there for the summer, but 100% of their time is spent on this particular project. And we're going to make the decimal points. We're not going to show any of the decimal points for this particular budget, but you can. So we're setting up another formula here, and that's going to be 20 hours a week times 8 weeks for the summer. Maybe the camp is 7 weeks plus an additional week of planning. Okay, let's do 30 hours a week, and we did $20 an hour. We are going to be playing with these numbers as we go along, but these are just examples. Now, we said in our example that there will be 5 group leaders. Maybe each group leader has 20 kids in the group, and there might also be other interns and volunteers. Again, this is a smaller budget, and you might have a lot more categories, so this is just an example. Now, the program director, in this case, we gave them a salary of $60,000. And we said that 25% of their year, or their overall effort, will be focusing on the summer camp, the summer program. Perhaps they have an after-school program to focus on during the year. The lifeguards will spend 100% of their summer on the program. I decided to do this hours per day times days per week. So we have 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And we have, I think, $30 an hour. I think I'm going to be working on that formula a little further. Yes, so 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 8 weeks. And each of these rates are per person, per staff person. Now we're going to be looking at the number of staff. So we have 8 lifeguards. And now we're going to create a formula. We're going to multiply these cells together to get the total cost, total expense for that particular line item. Now I can select the cell with the formula and autofill down to the others, and we can see that the formulas are correct. I'm going to call it program supplies. Program supplies might be more specific to the summer camp. And then office supplies. Let's try paper and printing. Now, as I was mentioning before, units and unit costs can be calculated in a number of different ways. But let's say there's 100 children in the camp. That could be a unit cost. That could be the number of units. Pool supplies. Per child, we'll have to spend about $50 on various pool supplies. Now, you can also have a written document called a budget justification, and you can explain further your calculations and get into more specifics. This is an example travel budget. Some travel expenses could be gasoline, wear and tear on the car, if it is for staff, and so sometimes a per mile rate might be $60, and then there might be 100 miles that are reimbursed. This is separate from travel for the participants, might be a busing cost. Shipping could be anything from shipping packages to and from the camp to shipping letters and flyers, postcards to potential participants. Sometimes we'll just put in a total expense number rather than doing a formula. So that's what I've done for the shipping. Telecom could be the cost per staff person for phone and internet. Again, these are things to talk about with your organization, how you calculate. So I've created a formula to multiply the number of units by unit cost. And I'm auto-filling that formula. I'm setting up each line as currency. I'm multiplying the cells together in column B and column C, and I'm auto-filling again. So now we have some total expenses, and we're going to do a sum of this column to get the total number of other expenses. So we did that formula. And I'm just going to be labeling this as total other costs. I'm going to merge these two cells together. Sometimes it's hard to know where to find on your mobile phone, where to find certain functions like merging the cells. I'm going to look at program income now. We're just going to do estimates. Say we have a government grant of $30,000 that perhaps supports low-income youth, or maybe it supports supplies such as food, which could itself be another line if children get some sort of a meal from the government. That could also be an expense line. So you're going to want your income and your expenses to add up. Program revenue could be the cost per child multiplied by the number of children, the cost for attending the camp. And of course, in a nonprofit, you have foundation revenue. So say you have one or two foundations. Now the personnel, we're going to add up the personnel using the sum formula to get a total number of personnel. So this will be the total personnel cost. And now we're going to create a total direct cost line item, and we're going to add up the personnel costs and the other costs. So this is basically all your expenses for your program. You have your staffing and you have your other expenses. You create a sum, and that's your total other costs. So we've already gotten pretty far in our budget. Probably we need more program supplies. What we don't want to do is have so much more revenue than our expenses, or vice versa. We need to fundraise for this budget, and we don't want funders to think that their funding is absolutely not necessary, or vice versa, that we're unable to run the program because we don't have enough. So I'm trying to balance the budget a little bit. Trying to think of what other categories are necessary. Marketing is always a big expense. You have to think about what all goes into this program. There's advertising. There's the website. There's email blasts. And now I'm thinking perhaps the program director is 50% on the project because they're planning during the year. They're fundraising. They're overseeing the grants. The program revenue perhaps is higher than necessary. How much would the corporate fundraising income be? Let's figure out what we have as a total possible income to start. This is for the whole summer program, all the different funding streams that we've been able to get the income for. And we'll merge these two cells. So that's the sum of all the revenue, $445,000. Again, this is all just an estimate. Now we have to calculate the indirect cost. It's the total direct cost by an indirect cost rate. And so right now we're going to do 15% of direct costs as indirect costs. What are indirect costs? resources, executive oversight, operations of the building, and sometimes an agency might have a federally negotiated indirect cost rate, and it might be even higher. If you're a university or hospital, it might be as high as 75 or 80%. But foundations generally don't like to see a very high indirect cost rate. Indirect costs are very necessary to run a good program, but there's sort of an understanding that that's not necessarily what funders want to see. So we're also just going to set up a profit loss calculation just to see how we're doing in terms of, are we showing an income? Are we showing a loss? And right now, with our draft budget that we've just done, we are showing a profit. And so we're going to take another look at this budget here. Again, these are not real expenses. I'm actually doing this from scratch, and truthfully have not written a budget for this type of program in at least 2 years. That way I'm not copying anybody's program budget. This is just an example. So perhaps we aimed a little high for some of these grants. Perhaps not all of this funding is needed for a program of the smaller size of 100 children. And right now we still show a $29,000 profit. Maybe the shipping costs are a little high, shipping and mailing. And now we've done our units, just about all the units, as the number of children and cost per child. That's how we've set this one up. And we're going to explain, in this case, constant contact email, graphic design, press releases, what types of marketing expenses there are. This can also be explained on the budget justification. We're going to format this cell, wrap text. Well, we've been reducing some of the costs, but the program income now is going to be even higher. So we're looking at trying to be realistic. Program coordinators, we put them in as full-time. There's 2 of them, but then they're 50% effort. We're thinking about what are different required costs for a program. There might be some technology involved. Buying computers, buying laptops. Make sure all of our numbers are within the formula. So we're looking at $15,000 now of a surplus. Now, in some case, you might actually separate out the actual request to a particular foundation so the funder can see what exactly their gift and donation is going to go towards, how much impact they're going to have in order to balance this budget. This is just changing numbers around a little bit. All lined, then we can start formatting this budget. So what I did was I added $10 there to the indirect costs to balance the budget. Now we have to look at the formatting. I'm going to merge some of the cells here so that when I put an outline around them, it won't outline every cell. I want to put in some borders so that when this is printed, it will be easier to read. So I'm merging a lot of these headers and I'm putting them, aligning them toward the right. I'm also bolding various lines to make it easier to read various headings. Now we've remembered that under personnel, this is salary, but our personnel also have fringe rates. Now, fringe benefits are taxes. The organization pays some taxes toward the individual, as well as some of the individuals will have benefits, especially if you're full-time. So we're going to have to create a line for fringe benefits. I'm putting a border around the various categories here. Making some of the headings larger. Such as the revenue and expenses. Now I'm going to format some of the cells by changing the fill color of the cell. This way we can have some headers for the income and expenses. I'm going to delete some extra rows. Making sure that all my borders are still there. this is when the first part of the personnel will be salary. The second part will be the fringe benefits, as discussed. So what we do to calculate the fringe benefits, let's say there's a fringe benefit rate of 25%. That means the organization, on top of someone's salary, has to spend 25% of their salary additional onto fringe benefits. So this 25% rate in this case is going to be for full-time staff. We're going to say that the program director and program coordinators are going to be full-time staff. I'm going to add the two cells together for the full-time staff. So now their salaries together are $82,000. 25% of that, C24 times D24 is $20,500. We're going to format that as currency. Now we're going to look at the other two types of staff. And because their fringe benefits will really only include FICA costs, which is type of federal income tax expense that businesses have to pay, theirs may be 19.1%. And so we are going to add those salaries together to give us the base. And then we're going to multiply the base by the rate. I'm just going to move the formula, autofill the formula downward. Now the total personnel is going to be the salaries plus the fringe benefits. So in order to do this, we have to add the salaries together. It's going to be the sum of cells E19 to E22. Total salary and this, we're going to label that this is the fringe benefits for the full-time and the part-time personnel. We're going to fix the program coordinator because we decided that they are full-time, just that they are 50% on this project. The group leaders are part-time. They are 5 summer staff that are 100% on the project. There'll be 8 summer staff in the life. Directly on our phones. We're going to add up the two total fringe rates to get total fringe. And now the total personnel will just be total salary plus total fringe. And that will give us a total personnel. But now, because we've added the fringe benefits, we have to add more income, more revenue again, because our expenses have gone up. We realize that we have to pay for all of the personnel costs. Also, security can be an expense depending on what type of youth program you have. Security can include additional security cameras, can include security staff, a security team of security guards. So these are important expenses to consider that your program might have. And perhaps you have a grant to cover that. There are some federal grants for that. So that we've now put $50,000 for under government. So now that we've increased our revenue and expenses, we'll have to look at the total budget again. We've had to reduce to $23 an hour for program coordinators. Again, this is a quick budget. Now it actually shows that we have a profit. So maybe it's only going to cost $550 per child to participate. Oh, now we have a loss again. Now we have a profit again. Solve this 844. Well, telecom might be covered under indirect costs and it might not be included in your program budget. So again, in a very rough estimate, let's see, now we only have to worry about $75. Remember, it can't be exact because you're going to add in the indirect costs. So if you take $75 out of expenses, it will also remove some of the indirect costs. So now there's actually $70 that we're looking at. Where do we edit this by $70? Well, we're looking at the shipping costs. To be higher than $5 shipping and mailing per camper. Of all the things that might be mailed, $9.50 could include letters, could include other things that need to be mailed. Looking at just a matter of dollars. 93 cents. 57 cents. Change the number of decimal points. Sometimes when you're finished your budget, you may actually take out all the decimal points. It may help you when you're doing calculations to look at them, but generally when you submit a budget to a funder or have an internal budget, you're not necessarily going to show all of the decimal places, so you could potentially take it out. We're adding some more borders around the major cells. Adding borders with thicker borders right now. We're merging some cells again. So see, when you merge the cells, the border can span a number of cells and you don't have vertical lines across, such as in your revenue line items of government foundation or the actual request to the foundation that you're submitting to. Now we've put a very thick border around the edge. We're filling some of the major lines with additional gray color, such as the total cost, total revenue. We're going to put a square around the salary and around the fringe benefits as well. Now I've zoomed out some so that you can see the full budget and where we are with it. We're almost done. It might be harder to read the numbers, but right now we're just formatting it. We continue to put borders around each of the lines. We put borders around the personnel, around the expense categories. We're going to add more of a fill to the revenue. So now our budget template is becoming a little more colorful, a little more organized. Now it looks like a budget. We've done the whole thing together. We're just changing the fonts. We've taken out the decimal points. We're changing the font sizes. We've used Arial as the font. And there has been a heading up there. We can see it now that we've zoomed out on our phone. We continue to fill with gray the various headers and bold various headings and categories. I'm double checking all of my formulas to make sure it includes all the right cells and columns. These are the formulas for the staff's salary rates. Sorry that it's a little hard to see, but this way you get to see the whole screen and the whole budget at the same time. We're just going into each cell and verifying the formula. Now we're verifying the fringe rate formulas. And we're going to get rid of the decimals on the profit loss. And we got rid of the decimals everywhere. Now we're going to export this. We're going to save it as a PDF and see how it looks. Because we have so many lines, it's on 2 pages. You can definitely fit it to 1 page. Thank you so much for watching us create a budget. Like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.